Hello, everybody. Hi. So, Daniel is wearing some special glasses right now.
Yes.
So, tell us about these glasses before we even go any further, because I mean, we can't keep going.
So not only are they hiding the bags underneath my eyes right now, this is actually part of my costume I have when I do live readings of I'm the Midnight Robber, my book that you actually helped me launch last year.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
so
that
that's
was a
that's
lot of fun.
yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's one of my favorite events of last year. I actually have the hat right here. Hold on.
Oh, we're gonna go. We're going full
Oh yeah,
on.
we're going
I mean,
full
it's
on.
February, right?
Yes.
So, oh yes.
So
Okay, so
anytime there's a live reading of I'm the Midnight Robber, you better make sure that this is going to be part of the getup. I'm slowly building the entire costume as I go along. My wife doesn't know this yet, but I'm building a costume especially for her, so she can be my mascot when I'm out reading at all these different
okay.
events.
So you're pretty confident that she is not logged in right now, to get that
Yeah,
tea, that
I'm
she is
sure.
getting full.
I just sent her the link like a minute ago, so if she's logged in now, that's good for her.
Then
But
she missed that part.
yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So you guys, if you want to look back at the last live that we did, there's a good opportunity to do that. Go to a link. I put it in the description to enter the giveaway. And there is a link to the last live. Don't watch it right now, but it gives you an extra entry in the giveaway, if that's what you want to do. So we'll take care of some business first. The giveaway. We are doing a giveaway of an autographed copy of the Carnival Prince. Now, some of you already have it because pre orders happened and the launch was actually yesterday, right?
Yes.
And so some people already have them in their hands, but some people have an older version of the book. So, can you tell us a little bit about the difference between the older version of the book that came out before and the new cover and all of that?
Yes, absolutely. So, for everybody, this is the brand new version of the Carnival Prince. Let's see. And this book is actually brought up by Wheat Penny Press, a division of Row House Publishing, who has given me the honor of bringing this book out to a bigger audience because this title is being distributed through Simon and Schuster this time around. The first Carnival Prince actually was a self-published book, is a self-published book that I wrote, I illustrated, I had help editing, and I shopped it around for a while. And ultimately, I thought it was best for me to just bring it out on my own because either it's too short. When I took it to some publishers, it's too long. The illustrations weren't good enough, like seriously tooling. And I felt the story needed to be told the way it was. So I released it. And years later, it had a little small following, and somebody at Row House found me, and they said, it's like, hey, we are starting up this new publishing company that emphasizes minority voices, and we love your story, and we want to publish it. So what they did is that they took the old story, retooled it, re-edited it. Um, I created a couple of new illustrations for this as well, and it went from soft cover to this beautiful, I know it's being blurred out right now, I don't know why, but this beautiful hardcover edition with my favorite end pages. The pages are absolutely beautiful. The illustrations look so much better because the print paper is so much better. This glossy, beautiful rendition of the book. Like no joke. Like I look at this and I think of the journey that the Carnival Prince has taken to get to this point, and I am so happy that we're at this point. Like pound for pound, this is a much better version of the book because a lot more hands went into bringing this out. The paper quality is better. The illustrations look so much better. It's a better version of this book all around. I couldn't ask for anything better, anything more.
So, do you feel what do you feel when you look at the old book? What does it say to you? Does it like a this is how far we've come, or what does it make you feel like when you kind of take a look back at it?
There's that moment of nostalgia, um, because we've mentioned this, we've talked about this before, how this book is a labor. This story is a labor of love.
Yes.
Similar to I'm the Midnight Robber, it's a dive into the culture that I was born in. I'm born and raised for 8-9 years in Trinidad and Tobago. I try to go back every year, but when I first moved up here, it was a situation where I didn't consciously do it, but I kind of divorced myself from my culture a little bit because there's Saturday morning cartoons. I love
Yeah.
comic books, and I just immersed myself into that for a very long time. And it's not until I got to college where I really started to dive back into who I am, where I came from, and what my culture means to me. And then when I graduated school, I was trying to make my way in the publishing industry as an illustrator. And I finally just came to the point where, like, I have to do this on my own.
Mm.
And the best way for me to do this is tell the story that I'm most familiar with.
Right. Right.
But I didn't want to do it in the way where, I would go to like a lot of Caribbean bookstores in Trinidad and the island I went to. You'd find the same old folklore stories retold.
Yes.
And no offense to the people putting it out, but it was the same old illustrations. A lot of the illustrations weren't good. And I finally got to the point, it's like, you know what, I can do a better version of this. But I'm not going to retell the old stories. I'm going to take elements of the old stories and create something new. And that's the Carnival Prince. The Carnival Prince is literally a marriage of the folklore and carnival culture of Trinidad, right? He's the son of Papa Boy, Man of the Woods, Mama Glow, Woman of the Water, and he's a brand new character that's inviting you into this world that predates him. Carnival predates him. The folklore characters predate him, but I want to introduce you to the world through fresh eyes, and that's what I tried to do here.
So what I thought was really cool is that it's a brand new character. I like that you mentioned that. I have 2 books myself, and people actually said to me, I didn't know you could make new Anansi stories. If
Why
it's
not?
your story, you can do it if you want to, right? Because it's your story.
Yes.
So I thought it was really, really cool that you married those 2 together, like literally, have them having kids out here. So I thought that was really, really neat. So is there anything else new that they should expect between differences between the old book, and not necessarily the old book, but the previous version of the book and the new version from Row House Press?
So once again, like, the original book was very hands-on for me. It was a learning process, and that learning process can be seen between the pages. Like there were typos that I didn't realize existed. The formatting isn't as crisp as it is in this book right here. The wording is a lot more kid-friendly in this book. It still has the same element. Like, this book is meant to be read aloud.
Yes.
In this book, there's also a version of the Midnight Robber that is meant to be read aloud. But down to it's a much easier to read book.
Got you.
And this version is going to last a lot longer. The hardcover, to be very honest, like, I went through KDP, which was Create Space when I created the Carnival Prince, and it's a paperback book. I had a couple of times where I had to, like, literally return the books because the print wasn't up to par, and the print, the illustration of this book is so much better than the Create Space self-published version.
They're really beautiful.
Yeah,
they're really beautiful illustrations.
I remember opening this version right here, opening the reformatted version, and literally just, like, nearly to tears, because once again, like, we've it's been a long journey to get to this point. I'll show you, like, some of the new illustrations, right? So we moved a couple of illustrations around. Like, this is paying homage, and once again, I don't know why this is blurring, but this particular page is paying homage to the original cover of the book. We just thought it made a little more sense colorizing it and bringing it in the interior. And there's about 5 brand new illustrations to accompany the edited text.
So I had the question, looking at the new cover, the zoom in on the face. What was the idea behind that? Like, what made you say, you know what, this is going to be, you're going to get to know this character full face? What was it? And tell me a little bit about that expression on his face.
So a lot of like the character of the Carnival Prince is inquisitive by nature. Like he's a very shy character, but there's a lot going on up here. He's always taking in the world. And there's a couple of occasions like for him to solve a problem, like the way he thinks is that his little action is putting his hand to his chin, cocking his head to the side, and just thinking like, how do I get through this situation?
Right. Because he's got a lot of work to do as a small person in
Exactly.
this book.
You know,
it's a lot of responsibility.
Exactly. Yes. And he's a problem solver, and I wanted to show this character up front, and at the same time not really spoil anything in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Like the original cover, when you take a look at the cover, you could surmise what's about to happen. You can figure out what's about to happen in the book.
It's a whole scene. Yes.
In this one, I wanted to capture the main character and make you a little more curious as to what's about to happen. Like, why does this kid have horns? Why are there balloons coming up around him? And hopefully have the cover be lively enough and make you want to open it up and take a better look at it.
So I have another question about this month. So this is Black History Month in America, right? And there's a lot of discussion around books about culture and things like that. And America is, well, how am I going to say this? America markets itself as a melting pot of sorts. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the people that we talk about during Black History Month, they have roots in Trinidad, like, Stokely Carmichael. You hear a lot of, you don't necessarily talk about that part a lot during Black History Month, but can we talk about like the importance of seeing characters and folklore available from a company like Simon & Schuster, available from mainstream distributors and things like that? Why is that so important for people of color, Black people? Because Trinidad is, as I like to say, it's a callaloo. There's a lot of people, a lot of different kinds of people, and they might make their way to America. Tell me a little bit about why you think it's important to have representation of culture and heritage in your books, especially since they're targeted at children.
From my point of view, growing up, not having a lot of people of color and being in the forefront, I even knew as a kid that there was something lacking at that point. There's something to be said to see somebody that looks like you on the page, somebody like described like you on the page. There's a moment of pride, right? I can be that too. I can be in that position as well. Going back to the Carnival Prince, coming from a mixed background and trying to put a character like that on the page, Caribbean, like you said, Caribbean, Trinidad in particular, like it's a callaloo. There's a mix of people, right? And I remember having this book on display at a show during the holidays, and watching a kid walk into the show, and I was like, "Oh, this kid looks familiar." I was like, "Oh, he looks like the Carnival Prince." So I see him walking around, picking up, looking at everything, and then he walks over to the book and he picks it up, and he had this moment of surprise and terror at the same time. And he goes to his mom. He's like, "Mom, why does this child look like why does this character look like me?" And I thought that was such a funny and curious thing, because why should that be a surprise to you?
Right.
Seeing yourself on the cover somewhere, seeing yourself as a lead on the movie screen.
Right. I was thinking seeing yourself as a hero, because
exactly.
The Carnival Prince is a hero in this story.
Thank you for getting me there. Exactly. To see yourself as a hero means so much. To see Barack Obama on the world stage being who he was, there's something to be said about that. That's something to strive for, as opposed to saying oh, there'll never be a Black president. So now saying I want to be the next Black president.
It's something there's definitely something to be said about the next. Yes. Right? Because it's happened, it's proven it could happen for you. Mm-hmm. What I thought was really particularly interesting about this is that I was born and raised here in America, right? So my entire carnival experience as a kid was from an American view. It was us going to a carnival. So it's all people who are experiencing carnival in America, in various places, in Chicago, in New York, in Atlanta, Miami, because, we're going to bring the party wherever we go.
Of course.
What I found really, really interesting was seeing the Carnival Prince interacting with Carnival when it wasn't necessarily like he was moving towards Carnival and kind of putting himself in, right? And that's how a lot of American kids feel, who have Caribbean roots. It's like, how do I place myself there, right? How do I place myself inside of something that is, it's mine, but it's not mine at the same time, right? So I really, really I love that aspect of the book. At least that's how it hit me. When you're an adult reading a kid's book, you're gonna pick up stuff. The kids will be like, I thought the pictures were pretty, and the words were cool.
Well, it's funny you say that because I myself, like my father, my grandfather, like they're carnival babies. Like
my mom, yes,
they can't miss a jump up, right?
Yes.
Miami, Boston, Toronto, you name it, that's where they want to be. Like, last 2 years has been an interesting thing because, we can't do that.
Right.
But with me growing up, playing mass was a scary thing for me.
My first time scared the bejesus out of me as well.
even though Carnival is one of the most welcoming events in the world, like Trinidad, like you can walk into a band and just lose yourself among nobody cares.
Right,
you're just there to have fun, but like this mass and droves of people coming down the street, like I was intimidated. But just like the Carnival Prince, like it's something you have to throw yourself into it. You have to make the conscious decision. Let me throw myself into this because you're taking a risk, but there's so much more reward when you take that risk.
Right. I think my first time I was just really nervous. That was really the main thing. I was like, how will it go? And I see my cousin is playing. She had to be 70 something, right? So it's an everybody sort of thing. And that was another thing I really loved about this, is that you could see it could make it so that Carnival is not scary to kids who are reading this book, and kids like us who they may not be introduced to it until a little bit later. Or I remember the first time I took my son to Carnival, he looked like he was inside of a nightmare. He was just like, it is so noisy. It is because American culture is not as free as you would, as in the sense of being outside and just kind of letting loose and stuff like that. It's not like that. So even at his young age, he's kind of a shy guy, right? He was just like, this is I never want to be in this place again. I never want to be anywhere near this again. So
I remember. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I would have loved to have a book like this for him when he's 22 now. So I don't know how much he'd be into it, but I would love to have had something like that for him when he was small.
Yeah.
Continue. I'm sorry.
No, well, this book is all about getting past what scares you. Because you find that you're missing so much when you put that wall up, and you're essentially making excuses for yourself not to be better, not to be a better version of yourself, right? For this is not much of a spoiler, but the character Carnival Prince is born, it's like in the ages before colonization happens in Trinidad, and he spends his years just kind of romping through the woods and being who he is and enjoying life. But then the world comes along. Carnival comes along, and you go from this quiet life to this big town where all this music and stuff is happening. Similar to your child, your son, right? It's just loud and big. He sees its beauty from afar, but he doesn't want to go any further into it, right? And you're missing so much. And for him to finally jump into this fray is now him protecting his home and protecting his friends from bigger danger, right? And through that, he's able to really come out of his shell and enjoy Carnival for what it really is.
I love that. I love that. And so if you were to say the ideal kid who would be look, because you have the kid who sees the cover and sees a multiracial, character who's the lead, like it's his face, right? So you have this child, you have a child who is likely outside of their culture. Like, what child do you think of when you think of the perfect kid to be reading the Carnival Prince?
An inquisitive child, a child that enjoys experimenting. It loves just creating in general. Like, is curious about the world, is curious about all the cultures, right? Part of the reason that I create this book is not only to introduce you to, like, familiarize the public with Carnival culture and folklore culture, but also Trinidadian culture in general, right? The way I wrote this book, once again, very similar to I'm the Midnight Robber, I tried to stay true to the vernacular, especially when the Midnight Robber and the dragon are talking.
Yes.
Right. I want people to immerse themselves into that culture. I'm using "Don't mama guy me, boy." Like the dragon, like one of my favorite lines by the dragon is like, "Don't mama guy me," and it's like that. It's like, don't play me for a fool, right? And the book is laced with all that, even down to some of the main characters. The Scarlet Ibis is a national bird of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm trying to bring all this together in one fun package. So I remember the way I learned best growing up was learning through, and this might sound weird, but learning through entertainment.
Yes.
Like watching a show that is loosely based on history, but at the same time plants those seeds that now makes you want to now go to the library, pick up an encyclopedia, if you guys even know what that still is. Like go to Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, that's the
start learning more on your own. That's how I learned best as a child, and that's why I learned best now. Is like, all right, you pick up a little factoid in something entertaining. It's like, wait, is that true? And now you start being a detective and start to pick it apart and learn as much as you can about it. So getting back to the original question, a kid that would enjoy this is a kid that wants to know more about their culture, where they come from, Trinidadians, kids that want to know about other cultures in general, just being a curious child in general. That's who I think would really enjoy this book.
What I thought was great was the definitions that you have, because there's, teachers that reach out to me all the time. They say, okay, it's Caribbean American Heritage Month, and we're looking for books, we're looking for this, we're looking for that, but they're intimidated by some of the older books that don't necessarily explain. They tell the story, that's that, and it's very difficult if you're outside of the culture to kind of make sense of some of the language that's used. So what was it that made you say, I need to include this in this book? Because I know you had it in
on the Midnight Robber.
In Midnight Robber as well.
To be frank, I was just tired of, for lack of a better term, having properties whitewashed. Right. This is a story this is something I try to instill on every school visit that I do, every public event that I do, and I'm reading and presenting. You have to be able to tell your own story, right? If you don't tell your own story, somebody's going to come behind you and tell it for you, and it's not going to be genuine. And I wanted this book to be genuine, and I didn't want the language to be a roadblock for a lot of new readers, right? So in this version of the book, all the words that you may not be familiar with, guaranteed you could go to the back of the book and there's a glossary. Do not, like, my whole thing is, don't be afraid to read this.
Right.
Don't put it down because you don't understand this one word. Going back to the last question, if you don't know the word, look it up.
Yes.
Especially in America, we're expected to ingest a lot of entertainment from the English American speaking point of view.
Yes.
And I wanted to purposely flip it on his head. I want the Americans, I want the English speakers to now get a little uncomfortable because it's okay. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. Pick up this book, read it. And I know that some people may think like having other people that aren't familiar with the accent read the accent can be a little weird hearing
Or
it
as the
out
kids
loud.
say, cringy. I think they still say
Thank you.
that now.
Cringe. Yes,
I think
exactly.
they still say that now.
It could be a little cringeworthy, but once again, it's okay to be uncomfortable, right? It's okay to get it wrong. As long as you're not trying to make fun of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's okay to pick this up and read and try to get the accent. I have like on my website, you can see there's a version of the book where it's read out loud, right? So you can hear the actual traditional accents. You can hear how beautiful the Trinidadian accent is, right? And that's what I wanted to do with this book. Like you hit a word you don't, mama guys, like it's in the back of the book. Patong, a mutt, like a dog is a mutt. You go to the back of the book, it's right there, and you can just pick right back up reading as you go along.
It's
right?
so funny that you would pick that particular word because growing up in my house, everything sounded completely different than outside of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to like spell that for somebody, I'm going, it's P-O-T, and they're like, what? Okay, or like it's definitely helpful to let people know that there's an English version of the word.
Yeah, I'll be very honest. Sometimes there's multiple versions of that word. You just have to pick which one you want.
Right.
Like I'll be very, very honest. Making this book was a learning experience for me as well because you're so used to hearing these words back at home your entire life. It's like Patong, P-O-T-H-O-N-G.
And then my dad is from Tobago, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, is it P-U-T? Like, because he and my mom sound completely different to me. Mm-hmm. So I'm going, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, but I loved that you gave it a spelling that if anybody said it, mm-hmm. they could sound, it comes out the way that it's supposed to come out.
Yeah.
Because the books, if like you said, if someone's writing it from a different perspective, they would spell it P-O-T-H-O-U-N-D, and it's not going to give
the same flavor.
It's not going to give what it's supposed to give.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. So I try to be as on point as possible without losing it completely because I could just jump off the deep end, and just like, what are you talking about? right? Because let's face it, you could go home sometimes. I'll be very honest. I go home sometimes, and the northern vernacular of Trinidad is a little different than the southern vernacular. I'll be very honest. Like, so when I go down south, there's certain times like, excuse me, what'd you say? Right. And you can go that route. Like you growing up in a household where both my parents had thick Trinidad accents. I just got used to it after a while. I had my uncles and aunts. So there was no difference in my head, but I remember bringing friends home.
They're like, what did
they say?
What was that?
I didn't know I had to play interpreter. Like, this is English. Like this is English to me. This is perfect. The Queen's English.
Right. I was about to say the King's, the Queen's English. And I'm going, how do you not understand? Are you ready to eat? I don't know. How easy could that, how much harder could that get? I don't know.
One of my favorite stories to this day is when I was going to college, we had a community room we stayed in. And Sean Paul's Give Me the Light. That's dating me so much right now. But Sean Paul's Give Me the Light comes on. And there's a kid sitting behind me. And I'm enjoying this. It's like, and I hear Mr. Friends like, yeah, like that dude's Spanish. I was like, I had to turn. I was like, that's not Spanish. That's English. Like, wait, Sean Paul's not Spanish? Like, that is reggae. Like, what are you talking about? That's all English. And like, that's where it really hit home at that point. It's like, oh, like, I guess there's enough of a difference. And brings us back to what we're talking about. I wanted to include this because why not?
Right.
Once again, be uncomfortable reading this. Like, understand, like, there's different ways of speaking English and not thinking like, oh, that is the third world way.
Right. Or it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's it's not that it's wrong, it's that it's different,
Yes,
right? Because
exactly.
you have a Southern accent in America, you've got New York, you've got the Midwest, you've got the West Coast, and nobody is considered to be, well, most of the time, less intelligent than
Yeah.
someone else, right? So I love that you're making it a point to make sure that people are not afraid of the accent. And another good thing that they can do if you are afraid of the accent, book Daniel to do a reading for you. Okay?
Yes.
If you
Yes.
really don't want to do it, you can have somebody do it for you.
I will crash and burn for everybody else while I'm reading it. Exactly. Yes.
You'll help them out.
Yes.
So you had your official launch yesterday.
Yes.
And tell me some of the feedback that you have gotten on your official launch. I saw some of it on Instagram. You guys make sure that you follow on Instagram, Daniel O Studios.
Mhm.
Um, Tell me a little bit about some of the feedback that you've gotten, because I know some people said, I'm going to get it again. They're going
Mhm.
to get the second edition. Tell me about that.
Um, the feedback has been very similar to when the first Carnival Prince came out. It's unexpected. Where it's like where people pick this up, it's like, oh, pleasant. It's always like they're pleasantly surprised that they're getting the quality that they're getting.
Mhm.
It's like your book is so beautiful. I love the illustrations. Um, I remember always the hardest part was getting somebody past the cover page,
Mm.
right? And with the help of Row House and the help of Wheat Penny Press, very similarly, they get it out to a larger audience and got them past the first cover page to really experience what the Carnival Prince is all about.
Mm.
Yes.
So we have had, this is will be our third conversation now. So we talked with Carol as well about like the process of going through traditional publishers, self-publishing, things like that.
Mhm.
um, I love the fact that you just did it, right? You said, you know what, I'm going to work with what I have right now, and then I will grow and I will improve. Tell me a little bit about what that process is like, to say, I'm going to go ahead and jump out there, because a lot of people don't want to jump out unless it's perfect,
Mhm.
right? So tell me what that's like, and what kind of what it takes to do something like that, and then to continue on to end up at a Simon and Schuster.
It's the understanding that um, there's a road. It's like you're taking the road not everybody else takes, and there's a certain amount of grace and patience you have to have with yourself, and then at the same time, you have to learn that you have to. It's like you have to be your own best critic. Because you could put out a book and not put in the work, not do the editing, not having other people proofread before you get it out into the world, right? There's a whole process that needs to happen, and you have to be willing to educate yourself before you just throw something out there, because
Got
people
you.
can tell that it's not a good product just from the first page alone.
Mm.
I remember 2 years ago, I was at a SCBWI conference, right? And I remember taking the book, and they're doing like a seminar about self-publishers, like self-publishing, and I put my book out there. And at the time, they did not want to put that book out there. Not the whole SCBWI, but like that little offshoot of that particular seminar for that day didn't want to put it out there. And I remember a year later, the head of that seminar came back to me. He's like, yeah, it's like, I remember not taking the time out to look at your book then, but she wanted to take a look at the book right there. It's like in person. So she's
Mm.
flipping through it and she's like, oh my goodness. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, this looks really professional. It's like, what did you expect? It's like, I guess there was a very weird stigma that comes with self-publishing,
Yes.
right? But understand, if you're going to self-publish, there's a lot of hoops you're gonna have to jump through, and there's a lot of learning that has to happen, and you have to take your blows. Like I first tried to shop around to different publishers, Simon and Schuster, the Big Five, Penguin, like all that different
Hmm.
stuff. And once again, everybody wants to see their version of it. in
Right.
terms of like you put it out there, it's like, hey, this is too short. Next one, hey, this is too long, right? And it always comes down to, it's like, what do you actually want to do at this point? And sometimes you have to read in between the lines. Something I spoke about yesterday as well. It's like, is it really too short? Is it really too long? Or is it that you don't see this particular thing selling, so you don't want to take the risk of taking it on? Because big publishers, there's money that needs to be made to keep them
Right.
going. And it's something
Absolutely.
you have to understand as well, right? So I had I have the privilege of having a job that can sustain me while I put this out on my own, because I felt this is a story that needed to be told,
Yes.
right? I wanted to give this to my nieces, my nephews, to kids in Trinidad and Tobago, to see their culture being represented in a new light.
Right. Right.
I remember with the original Carnival Prince, I did a special reading with Caribbean,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
And one of my favorite stories is that evening, there's a little boy that came out, could be no more than Aiden. His name is Aiden, no more than 3 years old at that time. And his dad brings him in. His dad's from Trinidad, right? One of the coolest guys I know. The first time I met him was that night. And Aiden is sitting up front while I'm reading. And as I'm reading, I'm looking down. He has a whistle in his mouth. And at the same time, he is 3 years old. He is mouthing the book as I'm reading.
Wow.
Right. So I'm realizing that he knows when the Midnight Robber part is coming up. So I had to stop, say, do you want to blow your whistle now? Because I know you're ready to blow your whistle.
He was ready.
Yeah, he was so ready to read, like to for that part. Like he was so excited he brought his own whistle. And that's when I realized like, oh, there's yes, I'm happy that I put this out, but this was just proof that this needed to be out there.
Yes.
Right. I remember meeting his father afterwards. Like, yeah, it's like, this is his favorite story. Like, he loves when I read the story to him every night.
Oh, wow. So he was the super fan.
Yes, he was. He was my first super fan. And,
oh man.
and like my heart just exploded at that point. It's like, my goodness, like this is absolutely amazing.
And knowing the impact that a book can make, because everybody knows, when they were a kid, what their book was, the one that their parents never wanted to read again, or the one that they were so glad when the kid learned to read, or at least memorized it, because they don't have to read it. They can be like, oh, go to your room and read your favorite book. Just go do what you need to do. So that must be so cool to have written that book, that book for that kid. That's really, really huge. So you sent me a very special picture.
Yes.
And I am going to show it now. Would you like to give me the background on it before?
Put it up and I'll talk about it.
Okay, let's see.
All right. So this is actually one of my favorite pictures. And this actually helps serve as inspiration for one of the parts to the Carnival Prince. So this was taken many, many, many years ago when my dad was a kid. And like I said, like my dad's a Carnival baby. His dad was a Carnival baby, and his dad made costumes. Like he was an architect, but he loved Carnival and he loved the arts, and he made costumes for his kids and his nieces and nephews. So in this picture, you see a little kid with the puffy cheeks in the front?
Yes.
Now look up to the right.
Okay.
That's my dad right there.
Okay.
Right? So I remember hearing this story. I remember hearing this story for the first time. I was in Jamaica for a wedding with my family, and we're just sitting there. And the first time, I think in a very long time, I was able to just kind of shoot the breeze with my dad at a bar, right? Just having a good time. And we started talking about him growing up. And I remember him telling me this story specifically of his dad making this costume, like turning his family into a deck of cards, essentially. And I remember and in Jamaica, that is where I first started writing the Carnival Prince. I was staying at a resort, and I had the time to just chill out. So I just had my tablet, and I was writing. So, and my dad, that evening, we had that talk, and it's like, I have to include this in some way in the Carnival Prince to pay homage to what's going on. So if you pull the picture down, in the back of the book, right here, and there we go. I have the
Oh, there
Carnival Prince
they are.
playing mass as a deck of cards.
I
Right?
love that.
Yeah.
That is
Right.
so cool.
Mhm. So I say I
Wow.
try like once again telling like this is not my story per se, but it's incorporating my story.
And I think that's why author talks are so important
Mhm.
because, hearing what went into the stories and why each scene is what is it just puts another layer on top of the book and makes it easier for the parents who have to read it 5,000 times. It makes it not so, it's not so much, it's not just a children's book.
Mhm.
It's really the story of someone's family, of someone's culture, of someone's heritage. I think it's a really, really beautiful tribute to your family. I'm going to look at this picture one more time because I'm sorry, this is probably the cutest thing. I wasn't prepared. You guys look, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Like, and if you have a parent who has made you a costume for anything, whether it be Halloween or carnival or a school play, it's not, it doesn't mean a whole lot that day,
Mhm.
but when you look back on it, all of the other things that they had to be responsible for
Mhm.
at that time, they had to make sure you ate, they had to make sure you did your homework, they had to make sure all those other things, but they also, good or bad, they have put a lot of time and effort into making you into a character of some
Mhm.
sort.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have that story when it comes to carnival, but I thought this was especially lovely and love that you're able to put it into the book.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the giveaway just a
All
little
right.
bit
Let's
because
do this.
we decided we're going to do two, right? One
Yes.
during this program
Mhm.
and then one afterwards. So a lot of people are going to be watching this on the replay, right?
Yes.
So you'll have a little bit more time if you weren't able. I know people are working, feeding kids, doing all kinds of stuff at this hour, and you still want to get in on the giveaway.
Mhm.
So during the program, we're giving away an autographed copy. Hopefully, you have gone to the link in the comments and entered the giveaway. And then tell us a little bit about what's coming after for those who are watching this on the replay within reason. Okay, you've got like a week to enter after this. Don't think that you're watching this 2 years later and you're going to get something.
Mhm.
Just go ahead and and enter when it's time. Tell us about what they're gonna what a winner would get.
All right. So for not only are you going to get a signed copy of the Carnival Prince, you're also going to get a signed copy of a print, an original print that was inspired by the Carnival Prince. And Row House has offered $20 gift certificate for anything in their store. Yes.
Nice. Okay. So we love Row House. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So while I find our winner, hopefully everyone has entered by now. While I randomly choose the winner, do you have time to do a little reading for us?
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. There you go.
Let me pull this up. Can I share my screen? I think we've done this before, right?
Absolutely. There is, let's see, I think you can
There
at
are,
the
yeah,
bottom of the share. Mhm.
I see it. I see it. Share screen. Okay. Move this around. Can you see it?
Let's see. Hold on one second. There you go.
Ah, perfect. All
Yep.
right. So I am going to read one of my favorite excerpts, and this is the introduction of The Midnight Robber. All right. So this is where the Carnival Prince gets thrusted into the life of Carnival. So, chapter 4, Getting on Bad. Many years passed. The boy found himself still sitting in his usual spot on the highest limb on the nearest tree, instead of celebrating with the others. The boy's costume, which was more elaborate than ever, sat on the ground below. This year was looking to be just like the rest when suddenly a small fire emerged from the metropolis, and it was running at the boy. Alarmed, the boy swung down from his perch. Screams of panic. Oh, sorry. Let me back up a little bit. When suddenly, screams of panic and clouds of smoke rose above the buildings in the middle of the town. A small figure emerged from the metropolis. It was running right at the boy. Alarmed, the boy swung down from his perch. Soon, the boy was able to make the shape of a man. In his fiery haste, the man tripped over the boy's costume and hit the floor rolling, putting out the flames that clung to his clothes. "Are you all right?" the boy asked. The man sprung to his feet, blew his whistle, and boasted, "I am the Midnight Robber Boy. Have you not heard of me? I am public enemy number 1, 2, and 3. "Excuse me," said the boy. The midnight robber ignored him. "And just as sure as a potong as fleas, I'm the only man who can make hell freeze. I am." "Excuse me," repeated the boy. "What happened in the town?" "It's Carnival Monday, boy. People came to celebrate in the streets, twisting and turning to hypnotic calypso beats. Followed by its imps came the horrible dragon beast. Emerged from the deepest, darkest woods, looking for a feast. The people got scared and ran looking for cover, but your boy, the midnight robber, stood up to the dragon to help his fellow brother. But the dragon and the imps got the best of me, you see. Those nasty things set me ablaze, so of course I had to flee. Now I stand in here telling you it's only a matter of fate. You best believe it, boy. I will soon retaliate."
Love it. Love it. That was great. So we have a winner. Before we announce that winner, tell me a little bit about what you just read, because some of the rhyme might sound a little familiar to people who saw our last live. Can you believe that was a year ago? It really doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a year.
Oh yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what you just read.
So the introduction of the Midnight Robber, this particular version has what we call the robber speak. It's a little more played up in this version, where the robber speaks in rhyme. It's very deliberate the way he delivers his lines. Everything's in rhyme. It's very poetic, and at the same time very boastful. Everything the robber says makes him look like the biggest, baddest, strongest character there is. Even though he lost that battle, best believe he's going to find a way to make himself sound a little better in that situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I also say this is in the version of the part of the book where the carnival culture and the folklore culture literally collide. Where you have the Midnight Robber, who is a traditional mask character in Trinidad carnival culture, and then you have the boy with the stubby antlers, who is the child of two folklore characters.
Yes.
This is where they collide. This is where the first roadblock happens, and you now have to make that decision. The hero has to make that decision. Am I now going to join the fray?
Now, I have a couple of really short videos that you sent. And do you mind if we take a look at those really quickly before we announce the winner at the end?
Yes.
Okay. 1 second. All right. So here you guys can kind of see that front and back cover he was talking about, that inside cover.
I'll say it again. This is like one of the biggest realizations of the book for me. Like, I knew I made it when I got to have end pages.
Yes.
In the book, right.
The shiny end pages.
Yeah. It's like I couldn't tell you how excited I got when I opened this book up. I was like, oh wow, Like we have this. This is what I wanted. This next version is dust cover. That's what's next for me.
Yes. Okay. Moving up like the Jeffersons. Yes. All right. So here is the cover reveal. I think your followers saw this one on Instagram. Your hands in this giveaway. Okay, so here we go. Drum roll. I do not have one. I really should have plugged in. There we go. Perfect. And the winner is Renee Matthews. So congratulations, Renee. And we have your email address, and we'll email you all of the details. And I happen to know who Dr. Renee is. She is a very, very cool person and an author herself. So you'll find that a lot of us kind of know each other, because you got to support children's books. It's a tough thing to do, right? And to put yourself out there for the pickiest of people. Children are, oh my gosh, they're so picky. If you think about who you're writing for, my goodness.
There's a few Caribbean authors that I follow, and I make it a point to have a better relationship with them because we all travel in the same circles.
Yes.
And why not know each other?
Right.
Why not support one another?
And why not get someone to pick up your book and their book, a book about someone from Jamaica, a book about Trinidad, a book about Dr. Renee's from Antigua. So it's really important that, you have that support and buy more than one book.
Yes.
Right? Daniel, how many books do you have?
I have 2 books that I wrote illustrated. One is I'm the Midnight Robber. The second one, of course, is The Carnival Prince.
Yep.
Then I have worked with Caribbean Reads, a very fun publisher that base all their books in the Caribbean culture as well. You can look them up at Caribbean Reads on Instagram. Just Google them; they'll come up. And so I've done 2 books with them. One is The Masquerade Dance,
yes,
which talks about Carnival in St. Kitts. St. Kitts, yes, and then
where Carol's from,
yes. Ooh, boy. And then the second one, which is one of my favorites to this day, is The Talking Mango Tree.
Yes, we talked about that one.
Like that was a very fun book for me to do because I got out of my wheelhouse a little bit and I got to draw animals all day long, and I love animals. Right. So it's like so look up The Masquerade Dance and The Talking Mango Tree, and I promise you will not be disappointed.
So I will put all of the links in the comments and in the description so that you all can have a collection, because you know how that works. Have your kids say, oh, when they see that illustration, give them that, that Shel Silverstein feeling when you see an illustration, you know exactly who did it. Mm-hmm. You got to get your kids a Daniel O'Brien collection.
Yes.
Okay. So I will put all of the links in the comments and in the description. Thank you all so much for joining us. Daniel, thank you for taking time to talk with me again.
This is always fun. You're such a great person to talk to.
So I'll see you in 2023. We're going to need a new book in 2023. That's what I'm going to be expecting.
Hopefully the world opens up so we can go to jump up somewhere and play Carnival Toronto. I think the next one's probably what? Yeah, Toronto Carnival. Meet up at a carnival somewhere and have some fun.
I think that has to happen. And yes. I can guarantee you, I have taken my son to Carnival since, and he has a different interest in it now.
Okay.
He is definitely not afraid.
That's a whole other story for a whole other time. That's a whole
other day.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for taking the time to join us this evening. Daniel, thank you so much. And everyone have a great night.
Good night, guys.
Good night.